Out here in the perimeter, there are no stars. Out here, we is stoned, immaculate.
Hello and welcome. This is the C86 show. I'm David Eastaugh. As you know, we love a special guest. This week it's going to be the turn of both a record label and a indie pop blog. This is the one and only Cloudberry Records and also Cloudberry Cake Indiepop blog, because I spoke to the man behind this very exciting setup. It's the one and only Roque Ruiz, who I spoke to and probably mispronounced his name quite horrendously, but I will put a link to his various sites in the notes below. So as you guess, after several minutes of interesting but slightly casual chat, we get down to that exciting subject that was both his early years and also how he set up both the label and also the very interesting blog. Anyway, over to you, Roque.
Right. So I was born in the 80s, so a bit younger, I suppose. I'm from Lima, Peru. Back then, born in the 80s, early 90s, like the radio would still play, wouldn't play like indie pop per se, but what I was listening to was like this Spanish pop, like indie pop that was being played, like 80s indie pop. And a lot of the bands, some of the bands would end up being on this label called Elephant Records. I don't know if you're aware of them.
No, what was the label called?
Elephant. They would actually release bands like Heavenly, BMX Bandits. So there's a connection there.
Yes.
So like when I started, grew older and I was looking into these, Spanish bands and their records and stuff, I would see they've been released by this label or some other Spanish labels, and there were connections with these with British bands. And then to start digging, looking for other connections between bands. From Heavenly you go to Sarah, and then you see like Amelia, collaborated with the Wedding Present, with the Brilliant Corners, etc., etc. So you start seeing all of these connections. I don't know if you could say like it's a very incestuous kind of scene in a way. Everybody, bands, people have been in different bands. So you start making this connection. But I always was a fan of melodies, of pop music. First in Spanish, and then,
yes,
Spanish indie pop, but that's how I'm looking at it.
So were you born, was this the early 80s you were born in, or the sort of...
I was born in the 84.
84, my God, there you go. So then by the age of 16, it was 2000, I'm doing the maths here, but did you start to also listen to contemporary music in the charts? Because that was that period of, I suppose, a lot of heavy rock and sort of rap and stuff like that.
I've never been into rap or heavy rock. No interest.
It was kind of indie pop all the way. So then when did you then move from Peru?
I moved in 2001. I went to Miami to study.
Right.
College, university. I met friends there. It wasn't a great place for indie music, but my roommate, he liked similar music as me, and then we kind of felt a lot of sharing and discovering together at that point.
Yes, through the years of 2000. Yeah. So what was the first single you bought?
The first single I bought, like indie pop record, or
well, okay, the first indie pop, and as well as the first single, which might have been more uncool.
Yeah, my uncool record. I think it was 1994, and I asked my parents to buy me a Roxette single.
Fantastic, we loved Roxette, didn't we?
Yeah. So like I'm telling you, I like pop all the way, since even if it was charts. And then I think first records I bought when I had my own money, when I was in university. I think I bought through eBay. I can't remember which exactly it was, but it may have been a St. Christopher record.
St. Christopher on Sarah Records?
No, not on Sarah. I think on Vinyl Japan. I think
Right, my God,
Because it was cheaper. I was looking for some like some records at that point, Sarah records, Sarah bands, and then whatever I could afford at that moment.
Yes, well, absolutely. That was always a good thing. Yes, vinyl. So you, yes, obviously enjoy those kind of little rabbit holes or whatever we go down. Sort of go into different labels and different little scenes and different compilations and collections and stuff like that. So with your wonderful interest in indie pop, did you then go back to discover bands from the early 80s? I'm always thinking of people, I don't know if they're completely indie pop, but there was Julian Cope, there was sort of Simple Minds U2. Then the Smiths appear in 83. Did you, and then there was that kind of wave in the 80s of the June Brides and the Fuzzbox and, the Wedding Present. Did you go back and discover the joy of 80s indie from that kind of mid 80s period onwards?
I did. I've never been like a huge Smiths fan. I love them, but not like they are. I don't know. But I did go back towards like Orange Juice, Joseph K. I love those. I really like those bands. Who else? I don't know. Like even bands like the Stockholm Monsters.
What was that band you mentioned?
Stockholm Monsters. They were on Factory. They had some great music. The Wake is also great.
Yes.
So thinking other early 80s bands, Dislocation Dance. So those bands were important and great for me.
So how long were you in Miami for?
When I moved to New York, late 2011.
2011. So you had a good 10 years in Miami, actually, at that stage. So at that stage, what did you start going to gigs as well at this point in life?
When I was in Miami, not much. Just a few bands. Not many bands would come to Miami. Even though it's kind of like an island. Like there's no any major cities close by. So when bands tour, they don't really go there because it's kind of far to drive.
Yes.
So if you go to Miami, you need to fly. So it wasn't great for an indie fan. Big bands would go. There's because there's a big population. There's big interest in music, but for smaller bands, it doesn't make sense. It's not financially, it doesn't make any sense. So I didn't really see many bands. I think, the Pains of Being Poor at Heart. They became kind of biggish at some point, right? So they went. Who else? The Bibian Girls.
Right.
They're in. I don't know if they're indie pop, but they went there. But yeah, a few bands. I think most of the bands I saw is what happened when I moved to New York, because I moved here for a better job than the one I had in Miami. I moved here, had a little bit more money, and I could also travel. I went to the UK times to Europe, to continental Europe, to Spain. So I've seen a bunch of bands after I moved to New York.
So New York in 2011, 12, and then that was it since, well, to today. So when did you start sort of your blog and the label?
Right. Yeah. I was gonna go back to the gigs because I'm forgetting.
Yes.
New York Pop Fest started 2007, so I did travel from Miami to New York. Once a year I would do this, say, pilgrimage to this New York Pop Fest. So 2007, 2008 to see bands. But that was kind of like the main event for gigs for me, like New York Pop Fest, which is a shame it's no more. And yeah, I started my label 2007. It wasn't the first label I started, but 2007 was Cloudberry Records.
Right.
And I started this blog, Cloudberry Records, like Cloudberry Cake blog, in 2008. And again, it wasn't the first blog I started, so
right.
It was kind of new for me. But those
so
are
what was the first then blog and label?
Yeah, they were the first blog. It was also an indie pop blog, but it was written in Spanish with a few friends, mainly me, but a few friends would contribute. It was called Mira el Péndulo, which means Look at the Pendulum,
Oh,
which is a
right.
song after a Spanish band called El Niño Gusano, which could be translated as the Worm Kid. It's a it's an indie pop band, and that blog was very popular even with I don't know if they were using Google Translate or what, but a lot of bands. I did the interviews as well, and a lot of bands, got in touch, etc. Yeah, so that was my first experience, and that blog was hacked. I don't know how, but I lost it. So
Oh,
I kind of
no.
stopped doing. I stopped blogging for a while, for about a year maybe. Well, that's a
Yes.
while for me, and that's when I decided, like, I want to do it again, and I'll do it in English this time. And yeah, that's
And
how I started the blog.
and Cloudberry appeared. Was it the blog first that you started?
No, the label was first 2007, February. I think first two releases were in February.
Yes. And what made you want to start a label?
Mm, so as I was saying, I was running this other label with a friend called Plastilina Records, which was
Hmm.
based in Lima. My friend was in Lima, I was in Miami at that time. And it was great. We released a bunch of cool records, cool bands, even but at the same time, like, I didn't have full control. I don't know if I'm a control freak or what, but I wanted to, decide who I want to release, how the records are going to look like. Um, so I decided to also do it in parallel, do my own thing.
Yes. God, it's such a sort of great and ambitious thing to start doing, actually. So you sort of knew the mechanics of getting it pressed, printed.
Yeah, I learned. Yeah, I learned through the other experience how to do things. I think, yeah, how the whole process works. And I didn't think it was too difficult, so I thought I could do it on my own. So
Yes. Well, yeah, fill your boots. So that was the beginning of that. So did you have some master plan at this stage, or was it just kind of taking it organically?
there was a master plan. Cloudberry started as a DIY label. I mean, it wasn't. I wasn't pressing records. It was CDR, and they were like this 3-inch, like this small mini disc. I don't know if you.
Yes.
Yeah. So the plan was to release 100 of those, by 100 different bands from all around the world, kind of like singles. So like each CD would have 3 songs, 4 songs max. Just there's only a few that had 4 songs. Most of them are 3 songs. And then the art should be like original, like get it from like illustrators again from around the world. So it was so there was that master plan, and then as we go, as things progress and like time passed, like I added, like, we did a few like EPs with like compilations. We did some splits, like split singles between bands. So there were like a few things that were outside this master plan. But
Yes.
there was a master plan originally, yes.
Oh, we love the master plan. So how did you, I mean, God, some of the bands that you started to pick up on are so obscure and sort of, so were you just somebody completely obsessed, finding these little gems? How did that go? Like there was one called there was Shine, isn't there? A compilation, a retrospective
Oh
album.
yeah.
And then there was another one, the Potting Sheds from Norwich or Suffolk.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
that is it. That is
knowledge.
impressive. So I did an interview with the two of them who were literally sat next to me here because they lived locally, and I was like Cloudberry, and then there was obviously this other. Juve's got this one, hasn't he, in Germany, a label which is also very obscure and interesting, Fire Station Records.
Right.
So how did you literally start just finding these absolutely obscure bands on your own, or did they come to you?
No, I contact them. I was aware. I mean, these were released on this series of CD compilations, of like these CD retrospectives that I did. They're not. I mean, so they're kind of like a different series as the Cloudberry. I mean, they're part of the Cloudberry label, but like their own series, like this retrospective series. I want to just make sure that's clear. And yeah, I contacted them. Shine, I was aware because a friend of mine, a German friend of mine, Andreas Herring, put them on a tape compilation in the early 90s.
Right.
I knew of this one song, and then I looked for more of their releases. They had they had this split 12-inch record with a band called the Bardots.
Right.
And that Shine song on that record is like one of the best songs ever. So I look for them. I wrote a piece on the blog. I do that quite often when I don't know how to contact a band. I write that, like, this is what I know about this band. Anybody knows any contact information? Anybody knows any other details? And many times when I do these pieces, like, the band gets in touch.
Yes.
Which is, I guess they're Googling themselves or something, or a friend, a friend shares the link with them. I don't know, but and I was lucky that they got in touch and like you say, like, hey, this guy from the band, drop me a line if you want to find out more. And that's what I did. And then I did an interview with them first, and then I think they were cool guys, cool people, and I said, like, I want to listen to the other songs they have because they have more.
Yeah, so you had some.
So I asked them if they can share the MP3s and they were keen to do so. And I'm like, I listened to the songs. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. There's enough songs to make a release, and let's do it. And the Potting Sheds was a similar story. I knew of their song. I think they were on one of those Leamington Spa compilations.
Right, of course, yes.
So that's how I heard them first, and then tracked down. They had more releases than Shine. They had like a few singles. So
yes, and I think again they just get very excited because you probably kind of get the gist with the kind of the UK indie scene is that, and what I found was that most bands have this almost a 5-year narrative, which is they get together, they have that 12-month honeymoon period, playing their songs, and creating a sound. And then they get a single which John Peel would play, possibly if they're lucky, a John Peel session, then that first album. And the UK had that kind of great circuit for people to go and play all these little individual venues around the country. Norwich had this one called the Wild Club on St Benedict Street, but then you had the gigs all over from Leeds to Bristol, Glasgow, Manchester, Liverpool, Brighton. Every city or town would have that kind of alternative indie night where you could get 150, 250 people go along, and at least when you're that age, you feel like something exciting is happening, and might be even on a label. And a lot of those kind of venues, like the Norwich one, I think they had their own the Wild Club Records or something like that. So yeah, it kind of encouraged people to get into the studio and record a few things. So your job was almost to sometimes bring together a record from a band who may have only just brought out some singles and some flexi discs releases as well. So that must be so, because I think that's Fire Station has done that a few times as well in Germany. Did you find that do you feel like you're an archivist as well?
I think so. I mean, the blog is kind of an archive of it. I mean, the master plan again of the blog was, try to document all of these stories and of all of these bands that that didn't release a single, didn't release anything at all, maybe a demo tape. So that's kind of the idea to record those voices, their stories. Yeah, I mean, I could like get in touch with bands that are more famous, that have more, and probably it's easier, it's less work, but I don't do it because of that. That's not my goal. My goal is to document all that time that I wasn't there, of course.
Yes,
but I find it so interesting how that scene happened. I mean, I don't only document the 80s. I also do like bands as long as it's indie pop. But I'm mostly like interested in the 80s. I think my favorite music is from that period. So
Yes, well, it's quite amazing because, I know, and I was just impressed. I mean, to be honest, it's a little bit similar to what I've done as well, because I sort of
right.
realized, because I was doing this show, the C86 show, and I put it on, this station called Future Radio, and it was, playing the songs. But then and I still do that, but I suddenly realized anyone just could go on Spotify and put in C86, and it's like all the songs are there. In the old days, it was very hard to get hold of them, and it was sometimes impossible, but it was like quite, you had to put a lot of effort into getting music, but now it's there. And then I thought, I don't know, perhaps it would be nice. This was probably 7, 8 years ago. It'd be nice to interview and hear their story. And the original interviews used to be a bit small, short, and then they just keep getting longer and longer. There's no editing at all. But I just wanted the story. I thought, well, if there's nothing else, they've got the story. I've archived it, and it's there. And that's enough for me. Absolutely. There's no financial gain or even fame, but it's just lovely, So when I got, we've got a fuzz box and we're going to use it, and the red guitars, I just realised, because about, I don't know, 10 years ago, the C86 scene wasn't very up there. People hadn't really got that interested. But recently, you probably noticed there's a bit more interest. But back then, it was almost like these bands hadn't really thought about what they had done since the 80s or early 90s. So they were like, oh, yeah, I'll do an interview. And it was like they had that story to just tell me. And it was like I'd sit here just go, that's amazing. So that was the pre-bit, and that's the band bit. And then there's this other bit that happens, and these sometimes other bands or just another career, and then they come and start making music in later life. So, I sort of found a similar passion of wanting to document it and thinking one day I'll get to the end of this project and it will all be just, that's it. But there's always another band and another sound, so it doesn't seem to stop. But yes, it's surprisingly do you find it very compulsive as well?
Yes, it was. I think less now. I don't have much time in my hands. I used to do like a blog post like every 3 days at some point. Sometimes even more when there was an interview. So I would do like Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays a new band that band archaeology, and then one interview on a Tuesday or a Thursday. I would do that. But these days I'm mostly just doing one post on Mondays. And if there's an interview, I'll post it any day, but much less these days. I mean, work and also, family now don't allow me to focus that much on music as I used to. So
no, this is
but I still do it. I still do it, and it's like a little fun moment for me. And
well, I would imagine. So with people like, you got one of my favorite bands, the James Dean Driving Experience.
Oh yeah, I love them.
I know we all love them. Who only brought out some singles and flexi disc. I say only. I mean, they were amazing, but no album, no compilation. It's just
I don't know. I've contacted them a few times, but no response.
No response. I managed to do a connection with a guitarist who'd also played a little bit with McCarthy, but yes, Ian's always been elusive. But then when I was looking at your blog, I came across the James Dean driving Experience, and I noticed that Ian was who's the singer and songwriter. Probably he'd replied, didn't he? One of the responses on that.
Yeah, and I sent him some questions for an interview, but I never heard back. So
no, every few years I say would love to do an interview, but he probably he's playing it cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, so I can say, but I wish there was like a compilation. I mean, at this point, I don't know, like if it's worth doing compilations like physical records, but somewhere like to listen to their music would be fantastic. But yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So
I would love to interview them for sure.
God, I know we'll all be there. So you then, so with the Potting Sheds, you got in touch. back to the potting sheds from I don't know, was it Lowestoft or Norwich? Anyway, in this, I think they were a Lowestoft band, hadn't they? Yeah.
I think
Yes. So when you got in touch with them, were they a little bit amazed that somebody in New York was kind of curious and interested in them?
for sure they always there's always this surprise. Like how do you, some bands, I mean, not everybody, I will say, but not everybody will ask you, how do you listen, how do you find out about us? But some bands do ask me, and then you tell the story. But I think the Potentials were surprised. And like I said, before I asked them to do the compilation, we had already done the interview for the blog. So
right,
I don't know if they were that surprised that I asked them for a compilation, but because I probably showed my interest. I probably showed how much I like the music. So
yes, that's impressive. So with your interviews, do you do them? I don't know what it was like in the old days. Was it via Skype, phone, or did you email, let questions?
I just emailed a questionnaire, yeah.
And because that's really impressive, because I often find, because I once did another project doing a book and I wanted people to contribute and send, bits and pieces. And I think we got one little thing and it was like, oh, it was like everyone parked it. So then I went out with a little tape recorder and would do these interviews, which made it very labor intensive. But I realized you had to sort of poke them. So with most of your interviews, they're always written questions.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I did like a podcast for a bit. Like I think there on the blog there's a few links for a few interviews, like I don't know, 6 episodes or something. But I thought it was too much time consuming. I'm honest. I don't know how you do it. It is time consuming. And the questionnaires, yeah, that's right. I write a bunch of questions. I send them to the band. I ask them, I just want to, I write, I don't know how many there are, more than 20 for sure. And I tell them, you don't have to answer all of them. Just answer the ones you think are relevant. Hopefully all are relevant. I mean, to me, they're relevant because I want to know all the details possible. Share any anecdotes you want. That'd be great. I tell them. And I would say I don't know, half of them answer them back to me and half don't. I'm going to be honest. It's a shame. I wish every band would answer me. But I mean, they seem interested at first, but maybe it's they found it daunting or something when they get the questions. I don't know, but I do get like I said, like 50% or so, maybe a bit more answers.
Yes.
So that's great. I'm not complaining. I mean, I know it's extra homework. I don't know how busy people are. So whatever I get, I get. Some bands, like they would write like very long answers with a lot of details. Some would just write answer you like yes, no. So you get what you get.
Well, I think recently I've been asked to contribute to something that the Precious Recordings of London are doing, and it's like, right, I'll put some time to I'll get some time at the weekend, and then you think, oh my God, that was 3 weekends ago. I must sit down and do it this coming weekend. Otherwise he'll think I'm not interested. But it's kind of, you want to, because of it being written, there's this idea that one has to clear the diary. And I think that's a little bit different, whereas when it's a spoken word, you just have to get on with it and it's done. And then you think, well, you've recorded it now. So that's quite interesting. So you did, these were sort of 2007 where you kind of start doing your interviews. And at the time, so have you stayed with the kind of, the kind of the design? Was that something with the website? Has that changed at all since then?
No, I actually, it's a funny story because I actually work doing graphics.
Right.
And people that have seen this and my job is like, this looks so outdated. This looks like, do you really can do any graphics? And I'm like, I did that website with the idea of, like the music is what's important. Like that is, I didn't care about the design. Just make it so simple. And at that point, when it was just very basic HTML. I didn't put any fancy anything. It was just whatever it was. Just with idea, like the music is what's important. There's barely any information about the bands. I mean, there's a link to listen one of the songs, and that's really it. I mean, if you like the song, you can buy it. That's kind of the idea. And I didn't change it. And for the blog, I kept like a very similar design, like very the color palette is very just blues and whites, maybe a little bit gray. That's it. It wasn't any ambitious visually.
No. Oh, well, that's fine.
But at the same time, I think it's kind of like the look, right, of the label is kind of very, I don't know if iconic is the right word, but it's its own uniqueness, I guess.
Yes. Well, I think a lot of times you think, well, like it's doing what it needs to do, and it's quite straightforward and everything. So with the records, you do them as vinyl, don't you?
Yeah, these days, well, I stopped the label. I stopped the label, but yeah, lately were vinyls. I mean, I did the CDs retrospectives and the vinyl singles. That was kind of the two main.
So with the compilations, they're all CDs, and then you do the 7-inch singles, don't you?
That's right. Yeah, the compilations are for like bands from the past.
Yes.
Singles are bands from, contemporary, like from now.
My God! So you've got up. I know because I suddenly saw that you were stopping in the kind of the label quite, I suppose, recently. So you got up to 1,000. So you got up to release 1,000.
Oh, that's not right. That's just the catalog number, but it wasn't 1,000. I did 50 vinyl records. There's a 51. There's 51 vinyl records, but 50 in the series of singles. And then for the 3-inch CDs, there were over 150.
Right.
And then there's a few like bits and bobs. The retrospective compilations, I think there's 14, I believe, of the CDs.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I've got it. He says confidently after looking at your website. I understand. Yeah, what you've done. So what was the kind of the feeling with stopping the label? Had you just felt that it was taking too much time?
Yeah, but I mean that's not the main reason. I think the main reason is how difficult it is to sell records these days. I don't know. I feel like being in Europe is an advantage. I think most Indiepop fans are in Europe or in Japan, probably. In the US, much less so.
Yes.
And the shipping price. I mean, and I think the main problem is shipping prices. I think they are too much. Shipping is more expensive. The shipping cost is more expensive than a record, and I understand. I'm not buying many records these days because of that.
Yes.
You don't want or buying a record for I don't know $40 plus shipping. I feel it's I don't know. I don't know where that money comes from. I don't understand. I see prices and I don't understand. I always sell my records the lowest price possible. I mean, I wasn't never making money here, but I see some prices and I'm like, it's impossible. And then I understand people not willing to buy records because of that. And I've seen it during the years. When I started the label, to ship a CD to the UK was about $4.
Yes.
Nowadays it's over 20.
Yeah. Because I remember back in yes.
Yeah, so I understand. So I think, I mean, I can still put out records, but to recover the money, it takes a while. It takes too much time. And so yeah, I think it's a lot has to do with that, with the finances of how a record label works. I mean, I know there's people that go around this by doing like co-releases. They do like they do a joint release with a European label. I'm not fit for that. I don't like sharing my vision with anybody.
Well, no.
So
No. It was. I
Yeah,
could. I could imagine that side of it is difficult. And I do remember when I was many decades ago, occasionally buying or selling records, well, probably mostly CDs. Sending some to America wasn't that
no,
expensive. It was just like, I don't know, from memory, it was just not that expensive. I mean,
it's
um,
been the last, I don't know, 10 or so years that prices have been hiking and hiking. And not
yeah,
just here. I mean, I think it started here, but in Europe, like they've also gone up a lot.
I think, and also Brexit's kind of changed stuff as well. But I was doing an interview with a guy, um, Aaron Tanner, who's just done. He publishes books, and he's just done one on the Cardiacs. And
Okay.
again, it was quite extraordinary because I think he's getting it printed in one country, possibly in Europe, and he's getting a 7-inch single printed in Germany and getting it collated,
Right.
and then they get sold from the UK place, and then he's going to have them up over in America because that's where he is, and he sells them there. But I was thinking, wow, that's quite a lot of coordinating actually on that front. But again, if he didn't do that, God knows how you would be able to buy a copy of it in the UK if you were bringing it from America, because it'd probably be, the same price again. So
Yeah.
yes, it's a shame actually. It's made it all very difficult. What did you find during the pandemic period with the label and the blog? Did you find much change on that front?
Mm, not really. I would say no. I would say like similar traffic on the blog. I mean, I don't check the traffic, but like looking at views and stuff, I check like comments, people commenting.
Yes.
So similar to that, like similar as before and after. I also post the blog post on Facebook and Twitter, so I get some reactions there. Not that many, but so it's kind of similar. It hasn't changed, didn't change much. And same for sales for records. I don't think it. At first, I told you. At first, I think there was like a little more interest, but
Yes.
the pandemic, when all like was so long, I think it became it was the same as before. I mean, I did have more time to do the blog. I did. I think I did more interviews and yeah, I wrote more posts. But other than that, I think it was kind of the same, to be honest.
And with the singles that you've got from bands, are they people who have contacted you, or have you contacted them with a sort of interest of wanting to put something out?
Right. I mean, there's been cases, yeah, for sure, that bands have contacted me. I remember, like the first band that contacted me was this band from Australia called the Summer Cats. Um, I put them out a little 3-inch CD. I would later do a 7-inch with them as well. I think I think I think I wrote on the Indiepop list that I was, or somebody wrote that there was this new label Cloudberry, blah blah blah, and they like reached out and their music was great. So I offered, but most of the times I reach out to bands. I would say.
Right.
I think most of the bands that reach to me are crap. Sorry. or they're not indie pop at all. They are just. I mean, my label is exclusively indie pop. Like in all these different styles, right? Like there can be some, more electronic, more shoegazy. I don't know, but all kind of in the pop spectrum. But yeah, some bands that I've heavy metal bands have reached to me, and gothic bands, and I don't know, like bands that don't fit at all. Like I mean, maybe they're just spamming, like they're sending to every label. I don't know. And then there's bands that like they try, but I don't know. I just didn't like the music. But yeah, most of the bands that reach out to me, I don't. I mean, I do reply and say like no, but thank you. I used to. These days, maybe not that much because the label is dead, so I'm not answering any emails for. But
Do you just have boxes under your bed of all these records?
I used to, but since I have a song now, I have to put the boxes in a storage.
Oh
But
no.
there's a lot of boxes.
Are there?
Yeah, lots of stock. Yeah,
Yes.
that was also a problem. That you bring it up. It's a problem, the stock. What do you do with it? because
Yes.
yeah, it's not like you can press like cost wise you can press I don't know 50 records that you're going to sell 50 records or 100 records. You need to press more, and so yeah.
Yes. So how many would you say print of like a single or one of those CDs? Is that
Those CDs, yeah, those are a challenge because those are custom made. I don't know if have you seen them. They are not the regular digipack. They are vertical digipacks. No, they are custom made. So they don't the pressing plant doesn't want to make less than 500. So there's 500 of each of those.
right?
So and it's hard to like say, okay, I'll stop now. I want to do regular CDs, 200 copies, right? Because they will look different. You wanna keep the same part of a collection, right? That you want them all to look the same with all the same design, the same look, the same size, etc. So yeah, I can. If I was to do new CDs, I would with a different number of copies. I would have to start a new, totally different series or something. But because yeah, it doesn't make any sense anymore to do 500
Yes.
copies. I think it's for a very obscure band. I mean, unless there's like the James Dean driving experience, one of those that that I could throw my money out of the window or something, but yeah, it's tough.
Yes. So yeah, so with someone like the Potting Shed, who are such
Yeah.
an English British indie band, did you find that most of them? So you were having to sell them from New York back to England, or were you able to sort of sell them straight from England?
Yeah, I think at some point back then when I released them, I had some distribution in England, not that much, but Rough Trade would pick some records. I don't know if at that time, but at some point Norman Records was carrying some.
Oh yes.
Um, but yeah, they stopped, I guess, also because of shipping prices.
Yes.
Actually, Norman told me like that shipping prices weren't helping them. Rough Trade, at some point they opened a store in New York, so that was kind of helping because I would just bring the records to them, and then I think from here they would make a shipment to the UK.
Yes.
So that was okay, but they were mostly interested. Rough Trade was mostly interested in new bands in the singles, not the compilations. But yeah, I don't. And then who else was doing this? Yeah, at the time of the Potting Sheds, I think maybe just Rough Trade. I can't remember if there was other distribution. At some points, there were like, oh god, there was this guy, Pebble Records. I think it was called Pebble Records. He was also doing some distribution of CDs and vinyl. Yeah, but
Yes.
there's not much. I mean, I think for a small label, unless you're in a big distribution group, it's hard to to get your records in stores or being sold in the UK.
Yes. God, it's a bit of a struggle, isn't it? I suppose the best thing is when bands were playing live and they could just sell them at the gig, really, and get it
I
done.
mean, whenever I travel to the UK, I would bring like lots of records in my bag and go to gigs and sell them there.
Yes.
That usually did very well. Like at gigs, I think selling records at gigs is the best.
And that would
That's
definitely,
where you
yes.
can sell a lot, or at festivals. Yeah.
Yes. Over the years, then have those kind of sales from those records compilations that you did, have they kind of really trickled out, and you just
Yeah,
do
that
the
happened.
occasion.
Yeah.
Do you find there's people though, like I love the Potting Sheds. Are there people all that once a month or once a year you go, oh my God, someone from Japan wants a copy of this album, or somebody in Brazil wants to get a copy of the Potting
Yeah,
Sheds?
that happened. I mean, Japan is Japan is nothing special. They love indie pop in Japan, and actually the biggest distributor I ever had was in Japan. Like this union would order, depending on the record, they could order 100 or 50, 70 like on one go. So that was great. So Japan is no surprise, but like yeah, when you see like somebody like you say from Brazil or Whereas like for South Africa, and Hungary, places that you don't have them in your indie pop radar, I think it's really cool.
Yes, absolutely. I always think that's amazing. And then
South America sometimes too, Mexico, but it's not often, but sometimes.
so the good old potting. Do you still have any collection CDs left of the potting
I do.
sheds?
I don't have them here at home, so I can't count them. But I think there's a few.
There's a few still there in the world. So then, obviously you still got the hunger because you sort of, like you mentioned at the beginning, you came to see Heavenly and then coming back to Manchester to see the man from Del Monte as well. So yeah, will you be doing, any little interviews with any of the members from the band?
I don't, as I said, I don't know them. I'm shy. I told you. I don't know what to do.
I know, but it's
I just go like, hey, I have a. I mean, most of these bands don't have a clue what Cloudberry Records is like. I'm like, hey, I'm from Cloudberry. Like, who? I don't know.
I don't know. I think the members of the band are very excited because they couldn't believe they even sold that many tickets, let alone
they
have a
sold
sell.
out. That gig is sold out. And sold out very quickly. I think I was lucky to get it. I had to wake up at 5 a.m. to buy a ticket.
Yes.
That's my alarm. Yeah.
Are you still discovering indie bands from the 80s and 90s?
Yeah, that's mainly it. Yeah. I think the blog is mostly like my vehicle to discovering bands. And I think, yeah, most of my posts are new bands I've discovered. I mean, a few are bands that, I knew or been in my radar for a while, and suddenly I decided to write about them.
Yes.
But most of the posts on the blog are new bands for me. Totally new bands for me. Yeah.
Yes, God damn. So when you come to the UK next month, will you be doing some more gigging and shopping, or will you just go and see the band and then come back?
Seeing the band and some sightseeing. That's all.
And then
and I have many friends. In Manchester, I do plan seeing my friend who has a record store there in Manchester. Was Rich from the Sun Charms.
Right. Yes.
So I'll go visit him for sure. I think I'm gonna get a beer with the lead singer from Simon from the Jeremiahs.
Oh yes.
Who I've always wanted to do a compilation. So that's one band, like, if at some point I could do a compilation.
The Jeremiahs.
I love them. I think all of their songs are fantastic. And then seeing friends in London and just some sightseeing. That's mainly it. Just for a week.
God, that's going to be very exciting, isn't it? Actually, it's going to be good. And what other gigs have you got lined up? Have you got anything else lined up culturally this year?
Yeah, there's one gig. So I bought tickets. So my birthday in March here in New York. There's an acoustic set by the Frank and Walters.
Oh, the Frank and Walters! My God, yes, another band who have happened as well, isn't it? Really, they're all coming out actually. And do you just stick to New York, or do you occasionally travel further afield?
No, I used to, like I said, like now with the family, it's a bit of a challenge. This time I'm escaping, doing but in general, maybe like once a year I can do like a trip and see a band, but it's not a priority. Like, I mean, the man from Del Monte is a band I've been a big fan for a while, and I just couldn't believe it. And I'm like, and I know like the songs by heart and stuff. So I said, like, I'll do it. I've only done this for a few bands, honestly. Like you mentioned, like Heavenly, and there's this German band in 2014 I went to see called Throw That Beat in the Garbage Can. I also traveled to Berlin just for the reunion gig. But yeah, I've done it only a few times. It's not like just very special.
Yes.
Moment.
Well, I could imagine. Now, what was that German band you mentioned? Because frankly, I missed most of that.
So Throw That Beat in the Garbage Can. They're like maybe the most famous indie pop band from Germany. Maybe, I don't know. They used to tour with the Fat Tulips.
That's a sort of, yes. I just garbage can. Can. Yeah, well, I'll check that out. I'm a bit like, I don't know, possibly a bit like you. I get very excited if I see a name that I haven't come across before, or someone mentions something. I always find myself
Yeah,
thinking, oh, right. I feel there's something missing in my life. I need to go and check it out. It's a terrible obsession, isn't it? Addiction, really.
it is. It is.
It-
You need to find out all the details, all the songs, all the.
have you come across this other label that started during lockdown called the Precious Recordings of London? These John Peel, Janice Long sessions that have been coming out.
That's the one that maybe the only label I still buy records from. I think. Like I said, like I don't buy many records this day, but I'm buying those. They are very nicely done. I like the sense of collection. I mean, I was kind of a bit annoyed, maybe my OCD, I don't know, when they changed the size. They were like doing 7 inches first, and then they started doing 10 inch. I don't know if you know.
Yes.
So they don't look as nice next to each other, but what can you do? But
I
that's
like
what
the
this.
fact, yes.
But I really like them, and yeah, I've been buying. I mean, I haven't bought all of them because some bands I'm not a fan. But all the ones that like the indie pop bands, I have them all. Yeah, and I think the presentation, the design, everything is like top notch. It's really good.
Yes. Well, they've got a new one. The Chesterfields are coming out.
I'm gonna get that one for sure.
That's a really look. I might have even got a copy. I can just wave it in front of you.
Right. Okay, I don't have it.
Where is it? Oh, oh, here they are. Oh, God. I know. Well, I've been slowly collecting them myself. So there's. Oh, did you get the Jess Garin?
That's another
You
band.
must have got the 14 Ice Bears.
Oh yes,
And then there was that. The Loft.
I have the Loft. Yes,
You would have, I would guess you missed that one, the essential.
I don't have that one. No.
Biss, Cuban boys, Flame and Star, Close Lobsters, we love them. And
So,
then, did you bother with this one, the Green Telescope?
no, I didn't buy that one.
No, it's
Not my style.
it was not. I can't remember where the Chesterfield one went to actually. I don't know. Anyway, I was very pleased with the Chesterfields because I thought that was a bit of a classic. But no, I do like his design. Dear old Nick, he's keeping it real. But yeah,
I like the different colors depending of the session. That's
yeah.
great.
So it's always very curious. I mean, I suppose what I feel really pleased or grateful for is the fact that people have put all that work, like yourself, have put all that work in to sort of getting it, publishing it, getting the publishing or whatever, the music, the tapes, and then putting it out because it's a hell of a lot of work, isn't it? Let's face it. I can't remember. Oh, this is the Chesterfields one.
Okay, yeah, I don't have it. Looks great.
There you go.
Wow.
Do you know the track listing on it?
Let me see. Two Girls and a Treehouse. Yes. What's your perversion? That's classic. Love Mountain. Love Mountain. Yes, I know that one. Yeah, no, I saw them once not in their heyday, but here in New York when they came.
Oh,
It was
yes.
2016, I think, with Andy Strickland I think was playing on the band.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Well,
like his other band, the Caretaker Race, a lot.
and that, dear listener, is just about the end of the interview. A massive thank you to Roque Ruiz for giving me the time for that. I'm really sorry I've butchered trying to pronounce his name, but I can't roll my R's and I've practiced and failed. But anyway, you'll see the link of the website and his blog and record label in the notes. So yes, have a look there. Anyway, this has been the C86 Show, David Eastaugh. If you want to contact me, you can on all the social media platform sites. Just do C86 Show. And all these interviews have been archived on Spotify, iTunes, Podbean. It's true. Have a great week. Stay safe.